Hello there guys, welcome back to another episode of VGC Off The Record, and this time I pressed the record button. We've just chatted for 5-10 minutes about absolute nonsense, and Steven here didn't press the record button in Stream God. Well done me. Anyway, we are going this time. I've just double and triple checked, and it's all good. And you're here, you're watching, or you're listening to this because this is VGC Off The Record, where we chat about all the big news from the games industry. I'm your hapless, clueless, not pressing record host, Steven McInerney, and I'm joined by two of VGC's finest. We've got the big chief, the boss man, Mr. Andy Robertson. How you doing?
Hello.
You good, man?
Yeah, I told an amazing anecdote earlier about me getting a vaccine and being very tired. I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, I've had a vaccine. I'm a bit tired. My arm feels like it's been hit with a bat, but I haven't got coronavirus for what I know, so that's a little plus.
That's all good. All good.
Lots of stuff going on this week.
Busy as well. Busy. Yeah, very busy boy, aren't you? And I empathised as well in that false intro. I said my arm's been killing for a week, but I'm good other than that, and it's all good. And then I went, and here's the tired old hack himself, Chris Scullion, and I asked how he was, and he responded with,
I said I was doing well and writing a book at the weekend and I'm tired and all that, but yeah, same old.
What's the book you're writing? What's the book you're writing at the moment?
It's a book about platforming games, so it's like every Mario platformer, every Sonic platformer, and then a big bit at the back, like 50 more kind of iconic platform games, which will kind of designed to get people angry because inevitably some stuff's going to have to be left out. So yeah, fun times.
Have you put any of my games in?
Yeah, the second ukulele's in it.
He's like,
yeah, don't worry, it's in the top 50.
He's like, yeah,
second one made it. Second one.
What up? The invoice is being paid.
Well, there's such a menace to that.
Well
Did you
done,
put
you've
any of my
kept your
games
job.
in that? Yeah.
The invoice is being paid.
Well, at least probably literally have. Well done, Chris. Genuinely. When's that coming out, by the way? Have you got a release date for that yet?
It'll be the end of this year at some point. Depends on how quickly it's proofread and stuff. So yeah, all good.
We can do like a read along as it comes out on this. We'll do a whole episode of Off The Record, and we can just. I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait for it. It'll be wonderful. Sure. But anyway, now we're finally into the show, and I've actually pressed record. And this is VGC. Every Friday we go off the record to deliver you guys the most considered, most informative takes on all the big stories from the world of video games. And if you're a fan of this and you enjoy looking at our faces, you can catch us every Friday afternoon or evening. In this case, here over on VGC's YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any videos on the channel. And of course, if that's not your thing, you want to listen to it on the go as you're commuting or going to work or whatever, you can catch us on all major podcast providers in audio form, so you've got no excuse whatsoever to miss us. But this is Off The Record, and let's get to today's headlines. There's genuinely loads of big video game stuff because the industry decided to just essentially start E3 early this week, it looks like. Sony last night dropped a state of play for Guerrilla Games' latest epic, Horizon Forbidden West. A load of Far Cry 6 preview footage has just dropped online as well. The Switch Pro, yep, it's still being rumoured massively, but apparently it will replace the existing model of the Switch, and the announcement is likely within weeks. And finally, there's been a big Sonic blowout. Sonic Colors Remastered was finally announced during a big kind of Sonic kind of celebration last night as well. So we got loads and loads to talk about. We're going to start though initially with Horizon Forbidden West. 14 minutes of footage was put online last night. Sony and Guerrilla Games are giving players their first proper glimpse of Horizon Forbidden West gameplay footage, and I'm reading this from VideoGamesChronicle.com, of course. A new State of Play presentation broadcast today showed off 14 minutes of the game in action. The footage shows some of Aloy's new moves, including the ability to use a new grappling hook and shield glider, as well as a diving mask that lets her stay underwater for as long as she likes. Players can also override some of the game's machines and mount them for faster travel or combat. However, no release date was mentioned, which is, I guess, what most people were hoping for or expecting. But we got 40 minutes of lovely 4K footage of Horizon Forbidden West. Chris, what was your reaction to this, man? Are you a fan of Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one?
Do you know, I've had the first one sitting on my backlog since it came out and never got around to playing it, but it's definitely my kind of thing. And this new footage looks fantastic. Although I go on Twitter today and like the kind of morning after, people are kind of letting the cynicism take over and everyone's saying, oh well, I
saw that as well.
Yeah, people saying, oh, it looks fantastic, but it's just going to play the same as every other Sony third party adventure. It's like, well, if it's not broke, like why? I mean, the Sony are very much the kind of Marvel Studios just now. Like what they're doing works, and it might be a bit kind of over familiar to some people, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Go for it. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Like the hair physics, which are always the big thing you look for in a next gen game, look good.
Yeah,
bit of clipping, but other than that,
by its hair, can't you? Basically,
absolutely. Although I showed it to my wife because for some reason she takes a real interest in what hair looks like in games. I was like, "What do you think of that? What do you think of the hair here?" And she's like, "Yeah, it looks good," but they cheated a bit by giving her dreadlocks. Was that right? Okay, fair enough. So yeah, there we go. So that's like expert analysis.
Do you remember all the games from like the 2000s? Everyone had like a shaved skinhead, because they couldn't do hair properly. It's like Commander Shepard and everyone else all had like a shaved head.
I remember it's the SmackDown games are the ones that got the biggest piss take because the hair in those was atrocious for the longest time. And in PS2 era, even it was just like a big flat triangle sticking out their head. That was their hair. That's incredible.
Oh, I remember that so much. It was great. I love those SmackDown games. They were great fun, even if the hair wasn't particularly great.
Glory days.
Andy, I mean, are you a Horizon fan in general? For its worth, by the way, I did what most people did when it came out. It came out like it's either the same week or the same time, roughly, as Breath of the Wild, didn't it? And I remember like picking it up and going, actually, I'm sorry, I'm putting you down for 2 months because Breath of the Wild took over for me. But I really enjoyed it in the end. What yourself, Andy?
Yeah, same. I love the concept. I mean, the art direction is. Even we come to the second game, but obviously even the first game is gorgeous as well, right? Like it's a very, very pretty game. Yeah. I think it's a wonderful concept. I'm trying not to be cynical and say that it looks like a PlayStation game. You're going to see some of that creep in, right?
Yeah,
you are going to see that creep in. I mean, Ubisoft has had Ubisoft have had the same issue for years, where it's like if it's not broke, why fix it, sort of thing. Yeah. And then obviously a couple of years ago they had a couple of flops. I think it was the Division 2's launch and also Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I think, which caused them to like completely review their entire process to stop their games being samey, because those games were kind of poorly reviewed. I think they had disappointing launches. So I think they'll get to that point, at some stage, right? And to their credit, a lot of the talk you hear from Herman Holst, who's in charge of all of the studios at PlayStation, is that he's looking for like a kind of more a variety of games, like different types of game.
Yeah.
So I imagine you'll start seeing some different stuff creep in towards like the mid of the PS5 cycle. But Horizon looks bloody. That was a great demo, right? It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Super exciting. If they showed that on stage, there would have been a lot of people hollering.
Yeah.
Not I think we forget that requires much to get a holler.
Yeah.
Especially when she brought out the fake Breath of the Wild, when she brought out the Breath of the Wild glider. I was like, oh, that's good. That would have got a holler. That would have got a holler at a stage.
It looked beautiful as well, didn't it, with the little kind of glowing blue aura around it. But I think we forget, by the way, often, and not we do, like, the first party Sony games, but the different studios within those. It's like, why would they reinvent when it's only the first Horizon and the second one. It's not like, you do need, most games have a few iterations before they drastically evolve and develop. So it's like, I think, like, give them a couple of games at least to kind of, because they'll still feel like, and I'm sure Andy, you've been involved in games developments, I'm sure they'll still feel after the first game, there was loads of stuff they wanted to smoothen out and kind of
that's how it goes, right? I mean, that's why you're seeing a lot of, a little bit of bitterness from some of the Days Gone guys, right? Because they're kind of within their right to feel that, because that is almost like, I mean, we broke a story last year that they were working on a trilogy of games for Horizon Games Guerrilla. Like, that's always the plan. And when you do invest 100 million, plus into these games, you don't do it for a one-off game, right? You just don't. Like, it's going to take a big flop for sequels not to come out. So, I mean, it's incredibly tough to build these universes, right? Especially because you're always iterating in games to kind of find what works. So the first game is always, way more difficult than all the others. I remember some of the guys that I worked with, obviously I worked with a lot of the X-Rare guys, and, they've shipped 20, 30 years worth of games. And they always said the second game is... the reason the second games are always better is because you're basically just remaking the first game from scratch, right? Yeah. Like Donkey Kong Country 2 was just them making Donkey Kong again. And that's why a lot of the best games actually are the ones that sort of reboot halfway through. because that's exactly what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they're basically taking everything they learned before and refining it to kind of do it the way they wanted. They had in their head the first time around, presumably.
Well, you build it again with the lessons that you've learned, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples. Like, I mean, once say for example, like on our game Ukulele, if you finish the world, you might be like, you know, once it's finished, I think the points of interest are a bit too far apart from each other, or this thing worked really well, but this type of thing didn't work very well. If you started again, then you'd rectify all that stuff, right, from scratch, which you can't necessarily do if you're, you know, just iterating or editing on content, right? Like, because a lot of game making as well. Like, we've had this conversation before. One of the most important guys on a development team that doesn't get enough credit publicly is the producer, because they're the shipper, right? They're the guys who are like, it's done, move on to the next thing. Because actually getting a game done and in a box and cohesive is surprisingly tough. It really is. And at some point with all of this content, you do need to be told, like, it's done, stop, move on, because you could work on stuff forever. And then you end up with the other problem, which is like vaporware, right? These games that are just never coming out or have been overthought.
Yeah, I've never made a game, but I was in a band relatively seriously a while, and we do the same with songs. You tweak them until eventually you just got in the studio and record them. They're done now because they have to be. You know, it's I guess the same principle in most creative forms. It's never really finished. It's just you just move on to something else eventually.
It's the famous. There's a famous kind of cliche phrase in games, which is games are never finished; they're abandoned. And that's totally true. It's totally true.
I mean, for what it's worth, my 2 points, I really, really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn. And I know it got an awful lot of critical acclaim, but I love the world. I thought it was creative. I really enjoyed it. And the mechanics, I know it's the most original game in the world, but just fighting the big badass lockjaws and thunderjaws and all that kind of stuff and shooting bits off him to use as weapons. And it was just fun. It was really good fun is why I saw it. And
I'm going to say an old man thing. I'd enjoy it more if it was a linear game.
Possibly, I possibly would agree with that. Actually, yeah. What do you mean? As in more like God of War kind of linear way?
Yeah, God of War, Last of Us linear kind of way. I mean, it comes.
So you want it to be more Sony?
It comes. Well, it comes from a time where everyone was doing sandbox, right? It's like, you have to do sandbox because those are the games that everyone's buying. But the sandbox bit for me is always the least enjoyable part.
It didn't feel like a world in the way that Breath of the Wild's world felt, for example, because when I'm playing the two open worlds at the same time, that was more about, there wasn't things to discover really in Horizon's world. There was, but there wasn't. It was like, it felt like, you know, the sandbox, the game, basically.
You know, they've not talked about the structure or anything like that. Obviously, we've only seen a 14-minute slice, but the parachute thing that she pulled out, the Breath of the Wild item they've nicked, suggests
with a slingshot as well.
Yeah, that suggests possibly a more of a sandboxy type environment, right? I mean, what's the point of putting them in if it's going to be small, constrained, you know, kind of environments? That suggests like jumping off of, you know, cliff edges perhaps, and you know, a bit more verticality. You know, the concern is always as well, like the PS4 thing, which is I'm pretty sure, I might be talking shit here, so apologies if I am, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned something about, like, the reason you couldn't mount, like there wasn't much mounting gameplay with like the flying machines was because of limitations, or there was some sort of talk about that. And that's the sort of thing that you're just, you know, unless you're going to be limited, right? I mean, the CPU is going to be the bottleneck if you're doing a cross-gen game.
Yeah,
there's going to be certain things like that are going to be difficult to do. So I don't know. I don't want to be over cynical with that, but I can't. Where we go then? I can't think of many cross-gen games where you didn't play them at the end and think this could have been even better if it.
Yeah. If it was
maybe that's why the third one is where they can iterate enough from it so it doesn't feel too much like the first game, and they've got the better CPU and all that kind of stuff, and maybe that's when you know, we'll see the full potential, I guess, or what the directors want for the game potentially, because it is going to have that mixed gen kind of feel. I mean, it looks gorgeous, of course. It was definitely a graphical step up in my opinion based on that trailer. I know it's you know, we haven't played it in our hand yet, but I thought it looked absolutely beautiful. We didn't get a release date though, which is interesting because I know there's been a lot of kind of like a debate about whether it's going to be the holiday game for Sony this year and the big release. It didn't get that. Andy, are you expecting it to slip to 2022 now?
Well, I think the general rule with game releases this year is, you know, unless they're saying it's coming out a couple of months before it's coming out, you should assume that it could slip. right? So it's almost like, I don't want to say it's a waste of time then saying, it's out at the end of the year, but if they did, I still wouldn't be super confident that it definitely isn't going to slip, right?
Yeah.
So, it's almost like not that important, I guess. Like they'll say that it's coming out when they're really sure that it is. But there's also the chance that PlayStation have got news in the kind of E3 Summer Game Fest bits and bobs next month. So, there's a chance that more kind of news on that might pop up.
Yeah.
But, when I interviewed Jeff Cayley recently, he did explicitly list Horizon as a game for this year. So I don't know if that was a slip of the tongue or whether he was just presumptuous, but he's definitely a man who knows, right?
He does. He is a man who knows.
He is a man who knows.
In terms of dates slipping, I noticed that obviously Dying Light 2 got its release date this week, and it's like December something. It's like they've gone as far to the end of the year as they could possibly go.
It's like
just give themselves the time.
When Amazon doesn't know when something's coming out, so it just has December 31st, quarter to midnight.
So it's like, it's coming out in December. I said, okay, we'll see.
There's almost something to say that to put it December 31st and then just delay it by a week. I'm sorry.
Anyone who says their game is coming out in December in May is not coming out this year.
Definitely.
They are not confident, right? They're we could.
By the way,
kicking the can as far as they can kick
trailer,
it and look respectable, but there's no chance. That's like
I really liked Dying Light, by the way. I thought it was a really good game. I thought it was a really good game, Dying Light. I thought it was obviously it wasn't a big smash in the way that I don't know your Horizons are, but I thought it was a good fun game. I enjoyed it. It was not particularly original once again, but another game I'm glad to see returning personally. It's a lot of fun. At its best, it was a lot of fun, and obviously they supported it really well as well. The DLC afterwards, what I remember, and the community is really strong for Dying Light, so it's good to see that support. The second game, it definitely is going to have a lot of support. It doesn't really need the hype because loads of footage has just dropped for Far Cry 6, an Ubisoft original, of course, an actual original for Ubisoft here. And Far Cry 6 looks absolutely beautiful. Andy's been doing a lot of interviewing and talking about it this week. Not hands-on yet, is that right? Fair to say it's not been hands-on for you yet.
No,
we've just been watching the very pretty footage.
Over the last week, I've got to watch quite a lot of footage, speak to some of the developers. I guess that's what they announced it last year. There was a lot of talk about it being the biggest Far Cry world, the most ambitious Far Cry world, and obviously you've got this more cinematic narrative led by Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito, who plays what's his name?
Gustavo
Fring from Breaking Bad.
A wonderful actor.
He's a wonderful
also
actor.
in The Mandalorian as well.
Indeed. But they didn't really reveal much about the actual game itself. I mean, it was very much like a first round of reveal. Here's the setting, here's the narrative. But now we've been able to see a little bit more about what that means, and how that translates to exact gameplay. And what it means is a kind of environment that's the size of an entire country. So it's got tons of different biomes, which is the new buzzword these days. But it's basically got a big, huge variety in its environments. There's ports and a huge city, which is very rare for a Far Cry game, an urban environment. There's obviously the lush jungles you'd expect and oil rigs, and it's a very, very pretty game. It looks amazing. They've been able to go even more bonkers with their kind of weaponry. There's a CDR launcher. So the whole ethos,
I saw that, the Macarena.
So the ethos behind the game is Resolver, right? Which is apparently a kind of a Cuban thing, which kind of translates to literally to resolve. It kind of relates to their knack of using whatever little resources they have to solve a problem. So they've translated that into the game, and you kind of see it in there's a car system, where you can have your own car now and it's completely customizable and you can call it at any one time. So that's quite cool. But, as we said there, the weapons are all kind of these makeshift, bonkers. This CDR launcher literally fires CD, so it's playing the Macarena, right?
Looks like it's going.
And every time you fire a CD,
it's
like really the kind of the song skips. I'm not even going to sing Macarena, but it's
go
funny.
Go on.
It's funny.
Oh, Macarena.
Just shooting the CDs. It's funny. And you've also you've got this backpack which I think it's called your Supremo backpack, and you can customize that. It can have a rocket launcher in it, or it can have like this sort of like flame area of effect, flame effect. So that's in there. But the most
I love it, by the way. It's like how it's like, by the way, it's like, oh, that serious cinematic trailer with Gustavo Fring, and it's like a revolution and all this kind of stuff. And then it's like, don't forget, you can get your bonus DLC with a little sausage dog on wheels as well. And it's like, it's just so.
Oh man, it's like,
it's silly,
this time you've got a crocodile for a friend. That looks mad.
A little croc.
You can. So for your little, they've taken this from the last game, right? So the last game was like the best-selling Far Cry game by far. So they have taken a lot of nods from that, I think. You can have the little dog on wheels if you want, but if you're a real man, you'll go for the crocodile, and you can go swimming with him, and he'll go and like snap people up. It looks really cool. So I mean, it's very much a Far Cry game, right? Like you're going around like it's a sandbox. It's coming at kind of encampments from your own different approach. You can be a sniper, or you can charge in, blah 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 blah. But thankfully, they seem to have kind of gone into a bit more depth on that. Like it's not just basic outposts anymore. They've split them into there are like bases. There's these flat cannons that shoot down stuff in the sky, so you can't just jump in a chopper and go across the map anymore unless you deal with those. And there are also like checkpoints, like vehicle checkpoints. Obviously, they'll stop you, and if you drive through, and they'll kind of shoot you up and stuff like that. So they promise a lot of variety in that they're not going to be copy and paste. Like some of these will be on a sawmill, some of them might be in an oil rig. So you have to kind of come up with different approaches to tackling them. But the most compelling part of the game, from my perspective, was the fact, and it perhaps sounds a bit dull on paper, but the most compelling feature was the fact that you can holster your weapon now, and it feeds into the entire premise of the game that you're a guerrilla, right? You're starting a revolution against El Presidente in this kind of fictitious island, and the kind of the lead gameplay designer. Who I will get you his name now. His name is I won't get you his name. His name's David. His name is David.
Good old Dave.
David Greville. David Greville.
Yeah.
So he kind of explained it to me, but he said it's one of the things I've really pushed for, because in previous Far Cry games you were always the center of attention. Like enemies knew who you were and knew kind of almost where you were all the time. Yeah. So it was difficult for you to just blend in. And for us, because we were building a game based on modern guerrillas, it was important to be able to pass as a civilian. So now you can, it means two things really that you couldn't do in Far Cry games before. First of all, it means that you can now...
quiet.
Well, you can explore the world, go fishing, or look at these beautiful vistas, knowing that combat won't interrupt you. The soldiers are not just going to shoot you because you're the video game protagonist, right? You can holster your weapon now and explore the world and, kind of do as you please. The other thing obviously means that combat now starts when the player decides it, not when the game decides it. So the example that David gave to me was that you could be driving a car, holster your gun, drive alongside a military truck, until you're right alongside it, and then take out the driver and hijack it, which is something that before they would have been like, oh, you're the good guy attacking you, sort of thing. I mean, obviously you can kind of walk into an encampment, a village with soldiers in there with your, kind of posing as a civilian and kind of plan an ambush. So that does sound like it will actually be quite a meaningful addition to the series. I mean, it's very much a Far Cry game, but that some of these kind of additions sound like they'll be quite big steps for Far Cry, I think.
That's a good one for me, because I'm a big Far Cry fan. I've played them all other than the first one. And 5 to me felt a little bit like they'd gone too crazy on, something's always happening, and the world was too dynamic. You couldn't go more than 20 seconds without, running into a bunch of, patrolling a bunch of troops, and you couldn't really appreciate the beautiful world that they created and stuff. And I'm hoping it does find those moments of serenity, because it's gone a bit too much. And one of the things I fell in love with Far Cry personally on Far Cry 3, because that the for one, the environment was absolutely beautiful. The tropical island setting, and just even exploring caves and those little moments of just kind of like peacefulness. I kind of enjoyed that. I enjoyed just going in the caves and looking for the little kind of hidden mementos and all that kind of stuff. So if they find a way to make it feel a little bit like that, a little bit more peaceful at times, while also having that edge and adding another layer to it in terms of the mechanics and so on.
It's a stunning game, number 6. Stunning game.
It looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful. And there's always one thing they've done. And Nepal is literally on my bucket list of places to go to because of number 4. I know that sounds really simple, but it literally is. And I do enjoy it when they go more tropical. 5, I wasn't really that sold on the environment personally. And I also didn't really like, and so I'm not sure if they've revealed this yet, Andy, but I felt he was too open with 5 in terms of like go anywhere. And as a result, there was a little bit of moments where, I'm not sure if you remembered, where you'd completed like enough of the area that they'd randomly just dart you and you'd drop unconscious and they'd take you to a boss battle, and you're like, what's just happened? It was a bit like they'd gone too much on the whole do it in any order thing, and it felt a bit weird. You did this invincible killing machine and all of a sudden you get blow darted in this cutscene. Like, it used to annoy me. So is it going to be like, it used to really annoy me. I was like,
I can't talk for what's going to happen in the story, but it definitely looks more cinematic, let's say that, than the other ones. I mean, there's proper third person cutscenes. You can choose to be a female or a male protagonist. There's kind of a lot of supporting characters. They made a big point of showing us these big kind of lush cutscenes. So I certainly wouldn't rule it out. But the thing, I've said this in the past, the thing that Ubisoft are very good back is kind of analysing their previous, like their feedback to their games. Yes. When I spoke to the kind of the lead designer on Far Cry 6, he kind of spoke to that they have a lot of data. So, I mean, I would imagine that a lot of the stuff they do in this is a direct response to any criticisms of the previous game. Like you said, that you were pissed off that you kept getting interrupted when you wanted to explore the world, right? I mean, clearly something like holstering your gun could be a direct response to that. So, I mean, I can't promise that they're not going to interrupt you with a cutscene every 2 minutes, but...
What about yourself? Are you a fan of Far Cry for one, Chris? Or
Just a series I've never got into, but again, always kind of fancied getting into. So, again, this enormous backlog of mine, which is like obscenely large, has got like 4 and 5 on it. So, it gives me an excuse to kind of get through them before 6 comes out. The only concern I have from what I've been hearing is that I wonder if there's going to be a push here for a lot of cosmetic microtransactions here, because all I'm hearing is, when I think of third person cutscenes, I'm thinking there's a reason they want you to see your character. And when I hear that there's a customizable car and that you've got weapons with like little dangly toys hanging off the side of them, all I keep thinking is I wonder why this is all happening. But that's just pure the cynic in me. Like, in terms of the actual gameplay itself, it looks pretty special, so I'm more than willing to give it the benefit of the doubt for now.
A beautiful looking game, and that's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing, because Ubisoft are always pretty good at milking a console for what it's worth graphically, and it looks absolutely gorgeous at the very least. So that'll be interesting to see how it handles the next gen leap in the Far Cry series. One thing you definitely would be paying more attention to, maybe, Chris, I presume, is the Switch Pro stuff. And this is once again over on video. My camera's just off. Sorry, let me change my camera before I get into this story. There we go. My camera went flat there. Long day doing videos, but I'll carry on as if nothing ever happened. One thing you'll find over at videogameschronicle.com is this report on the new Switch Pro. It says Nintendo's expected new Nintendo Switch model will reportedly retail for over $299 and replace the existing flagship model, which is the key part of this story, really. And that's according to a new report by Bloomberg, which states that the redesigned hardware is expected to be announced ahead of next month's E3 event on June the 12th, giving developers room to showcase games. And according to the publication sources, Nintendo will begin assembly of the new Switch as soon as July and release the console in quotes in September or October. Bloomberg stated suppliers are confident they can fulfill Nintendo's orders despite the ongoing chip shortages. Its production lines are better prepared for the potential component shakeup, and the parts Nintendo is using are subject to less competition than those in its rivals' more powerful consoles. End quote. Chris, Nintendo Switch Pro, the rumours are impossible to ignore now. The hype is building and building for it. With the latest, obviously, just to summarise, they feel like it could be before E3, which is very, very soon now, to give the developers a chance to showcase their Switch Pro games. Where are you at with this, man? Are you expecting it very, very soon? Are you excited for it? What about replacing the current model as well? And what does that even mean, I guess, for the current model's games and so on?
I'm definitely excited about it. Like you said, the rumours are kind of flying fast. Even just as we were talking, I got a notification saying that the new rumour is that it's got a bigger dock dock with 2 USB 3 ports in it. I'm like, well,
it's got a bigger dock, has it?
At that point, you don't know what to believe. But I'm all up for
big dock energy.
I'm all up for a big dock. It's exciting times. I mean, my Switch is starting to creak a bit now. Like when I play it handheld, it kind of goes. The
mine's got a noise going on as well. Yeah,
so it's kind of a good time for me to upgrade. So I'm hoping it is going to be announced soon and is coming sooner than later. The suggestion that it's been announced before E3 is a smart one because, like the report says, it would give developers a chance to say, oh, and it's also coming to Switch Pro or whatever it's going to be called. Although I think they're going to call it the new Nintendo Switch. If it is going to replace the existing model, I think they'll do what they did with the DS, and they learned a lesson with the Wii and Wii U fiasco, and I think they're just going to make it really straightforward. I think they're just going to call it the new Switch.
God, they've had some stupid names in the past, haven't they?
I know, and they're doing
stupid names,
and they must know now that they're doing well, and they don't want to rock the boat, so they can't do anything too stupid because that'd be crazy.
I'm not ruling out them just putting a random letter on it. The Nintendo Switch D.
Well, I saw a lot of people.
That's what they love doing, right?
The popular option seems to be a lot of people want it to be called the Super Switch, to go back to like the Super
which
Nintendo.
They'll never ever do in a million years.
I don't think it'll happen either. So I don't see it happen. But that seems to be what the internet has decided it's going to be called. So obviously anything other than that is going to lead to a riot. But I'm looking for, in terms of how it's going to affect current games and games in development for it. I mean, it's going to be interesting. That in my head, I'm picturing an Xbox One X and PS4 Pro situation where the games can just be scaled upwards or downwards, depending on the system. But the question then is, again, going back to like Horizon, how much is that going to hinder any new games for the new Switch? If the games are going to have to also support the older hardware, so it's going to be interesting to see what new games will look like, and whether it will just be a case of upscaling it to 4K. And
I mean, if I'm a guessing man, I'd say if he's going to replace the existing Switch, then I'd imagine they're not going to call it something like Pro or whatever. Then it'll just be the new Switch or whatever. If it's fundamentally, if it supports 4K output via like DLSS style upscaling, which he reportedly does, then really that's what you're getting in dock mode, right? I mean, going up to 4K is a ridiculous boost on the original Switch.
Hugely.
I mean, obviously the upscaling tech that we've seen it on PC by NVIDIA kind of shows that you don't need a significant amount more performance kind of to achieve that, thanks to their wonderful kind of upscaling magic. But yeah, so I wouldn't really expect. It's going to run at 4K and it's going to look, 50 times better, and that's the boost really. I mean, in handheld mode, you're probably going to get better frame rates, right? Like, there's almost 100 million Nintendo Switch consoles out there right now. Don't expect anything fundamentally different. The one thing that Nintendo does really, really well, and you see a lot of consoles do, is a gimmick, because you need a story, right? Or you should buy this because it has this wonderful camera that follows you around the room, or what have you. Like, do you remember the new DS? It was like, didn't they? They had the camera kind of follow you, track you, so that the 3D effect was better.
Yeah,
and it's got another joystick that no one
that nobody used.
Yeah, so that is
one on top of the Switch.
That will be it. They'll add something to it that everyone will talk about pre-launch, but no one will use. There'll be a gimmick. Because you need those things for a shiny new console. I mean, I'm just reading this Spanish report that's broke literally as we're talking, and it says it's going to have
do the accent.
It's going to have a new stand.
Yes, that'll be the
dock. That'll
be the heavily rumoured dock.
That's good.
Oh yeah,
that was terrible. That stand.
Yeah,
the stand on it currently.
To be fair, that is a meaningful upgrade. It says the crappy little what were they
horrible.
thinking? Like
it was so bad.
It's literally like, if it was any worse, like, could it be any worse? Like if they just put the stand on the top, so you had to have it upside down.
Do you feel like if you're doing like design tech at school still, and you did that as a design, they'd be like, "You're not getting an A for that." It was that bad.
Yeah,
it was
really bad.
It was like one angle, which wasn't even particularly good. I used it a couple of times in a play, and I was like, "I'm just gonna have to hold it. It just doesn't work." There was no way that
even if they just put another one at the other side, that would have been enough to give it a bit more stability. But just one at one side, if you played it on a train or something, it would just go within 2 minutes.
I mean, this is a machine. This is a machine translation. So maybe you guys will be able to help me out with this. It says it replaces it with a base that goes from side to side of the console, and that will hold it more stable, similarly to that found in some tablets such as Surface Pro.
I don't know if it. I wonder if it's like a little kind of plastic bit that goes across like that, and it plops out of that. If you know what I mean, like a long plastic thing like that. I can imagine.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, is this on like an iPad case, right?
I haven't got an iPad, but I can imagine it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the triangle thing. I was thinking more just a long one that kind of just pulls out. You know, like a long, wide U shape, if that makes sense. But
Anyway,
we haven't really clarified,
sold.
by the way.
New stand.
Yeah, new stand. There we go. And
that's your gimmick.
It's apparently, in terms of the improvements, the report suggests it's going to be 4K output in docked mode, and then Switch Pro. They'll have a new 7-inch screen as opposed to the 6.2 and 5.5 LCD screens in the current model and the Switch Lite. I guess the size will feel the same. It'd just be a smaller bezel because the bezel's quite big on the current Switch, from what I can remember. So I can presume it's a smaller bezel. I can't wait for the 4K thing personally, because I got a new TV last summer when we were all doing nothing, and I had put Breath of the Wild on the TV, and You can tell that's pushing 720 every now and then or whatever. If not, sometimes it feels like it's a little bit lower. It might not be, but it definitely feels it every now and then. And Breath of the Wild 2, we've got to presume, right? We've got to presume. I don't know, Andy, am I getting ahead of myself here? Surely, if they're going to launch a new console with Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild not yet announced, is that going to be the thing? Do you think that will kind of bring it to the world?
I'm of two minds now. You know, I mean, they're gonna launch it with something cool that core gamers are gonna love. I mean, that's what I've been saying for a while. Yeah. That is who they need to buy this console. They need early adopters, the most core fans to buy it, and usually they do that with like a cool Zelda remaster or a Metroid game or something like that, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. However, I mean, the Pokemon release dates throw a spanner in it. Because obviously they've announced
when was that?
November and January.
On November.
So Zelda 2 is Breath of the Wild 2 is either coming out in September with this, or it's not coming out this year. Basically, that's speculation going by those dates. But they're not going to drop Pokemon and Zelda next to each other.
Yeah. My speculation, and this is purely what it is. It's nothing. There's no knowledge here. Is that.
Exclusive.
Although there's no knowledge here is my catchphrase. I think.
Is that how you propose to your missus? Like, there's no knowledge.
There's no knowledge here, but let's do it. It's been kind of assumed for years now, more or less accepted for years now, that they're sitting on a Metroid Prime trilogy. The rumour was that it was going to come out just before Metroid Prime 4 to get people kind of up to speed with things. If Metroid Prime 4 is still a long way away, which it seems to be, for me, the way to kind of win the hardcore over is to launch this thing alongside Metroid Prime Trilogy and say, not only are you getting Metroid Prime Trilogy in HD, you're also getting it in 4K on day one. And that's the kind of hardcore one to win them over, while giving them time to work on Breath of the Wild 2 and not rush it. And the Pokemon will sell itself, because anyone with a standard Switch will just kind of happily buy that. That's not the kind of game that's going to push the Switch to its limit. Maybe the one in January will, but by that point the kind of the Switch Pro or whatever it ends up being called will be more kind of prevalent. That's my guess. And again, there's nothing behind that. It's just, but my hunch is that Metroid would be a better one to end the year with and save Zelda, so that they have the more time to work on it, I would say. And
that would make an awful lot of sense to me. We're going to talk about a platform game, Chris, because obviously you're Mr. Platform. You're writing a book about it. A simple question before I get into story. I presume you're a big Sonic fan. Is that fair?
Yep,
fair
absolutely.
Question? Yep, fair presumption. Let's read this story. Sega's officially confirmed that a HD remaster of Sonic Colors will be released later this year. Sonic Colors Ultimate will be coming to Switch, Xbox One, PS4 and PC on September the 7th, not the next-gen consoles, interestingly. The physical version of the game will be bundled with a baby Sonic keychain from the Sonic movie. There will also be a digital deluxe version that gives players early access, exclusive music, gold and silver wearables, exclusive player icons, and a Sonic movie boost. The news came as part of Sega's Sonic Central presentation presentation, which also teased a next-gen Sonic game and a new retro compilation called Sonic Origins, which contains Sonic, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD. The Sonic Colors remaster has been heavily rumoured for a while. Last month, I can't pronounce that. Gematsu, is it pronounced? Spotted that German voiceover studio, Example, had listed work on Sonic Colors remastered in its portfolio of projects. What do you make of all this news? I said Sonic more times than I've ever said in my life there in a few sentences. Are you excited about the remaster of Colours? And obviously all the other news.
I mean, I was... I can't remember if I was at Official Nintendo Magazine or if I just left when Sonic Colours first came out. I must have been there because that was the Wii.
2010 it was.
Yeah, I would have still been there then. Sonic Colours is good. It's just at that point the Wii was kind of... People, the core gamers had gone off the Wii and were on 360 and PS3, so a lot of people just ignored it. But Colours is a decent, as far as modern Sonic games go, it's a decent one. I think it deserves a second chance, kind of in the same way that Mario 3D World did. Not that it's anywhere near as good as that, but it's good that it'll find a new kind of audience. In terms of this Sonic compilation that's coming out, I'm a bit disappointed. It remains to be seen what kind of new features. They just kind of briefly mentioned it'll have 1, 2, 3 Knuckles and Sonic CD in it, but then said there's more to come to be announced. So it kind of, I think that rests on what is being added to it, because as it is, those 5 games alone isn't good enough considering back in the GameCube and Xbox days they were releasing compilations that had like 20 games in it, or like Game Gear games and loads of other stuff kind of bundled in, and these days with the kind of stuff that Digital Eclipse do, all their kind of retro compilations, that just bundling 5 games into a thing isn't good enough these days. So it remains to be seen what's going to be on those. But what was the other thing? The kind of next gen one, we only really saw 30 seconds of that, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on there. Although we haven't reported on it because obviously we don't deal in rumours unless there's any kind of there's something kind of more solid to them. Is that? But apparently the claim is that it might be called Sonic Rangers. Because apparently a email went out to some press with Sonic Rangers in the heading, but which was then quickly redacted, removed. And apparently someone found Sonic Rangers in some metadata, and then someone dug up an old 4chan thing from January from someone saying, I just focus tested for a game called Sonic Rangers. And so everyone seems to have decided it's now called Sonic Rangers, but obviously we're kind of not touching
that
until there's something a bit more to it.
4chan.
4chan are the bastions of knowledge. But it's an interesting coincidence, if nothing else, that someone in January was saying it was called that, and they claimed that it was like Breath of the Wild and that it was totally open world Sonic, which, if true, could be interesting, but I don't know. That's pure speculation at this point. So.
While we're talking about potential nonsense, there was also wasn't there also a Reddit post that pretty much called all this out, I think. Sonic Colors compilation, and they said there was going to be a Sonic Adventure remake, I think. But it's a post on Reddit. Could have been a good guess.
Who knows? But having said that, Sonic Adventure had open worldy bits too, so it might still kind of fit in. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're talking about a 30-second video that just showed Sonic running, and that was it. It's like it's
a bit shit.
It's pretty good at that.
Yeah, it's a bit shit considering they've been talking about this anniversary for more than a year.
Yeah, they've been hyping it up for ages.
This is sort of the shit they put together if there's a fire, that's burnt all everything they've been working on. Like, shit, what can we do in a month? Old ports. There you go. Oh, look, we're in Minecraft. We got a picture of Sonic in Minecraft. Dave from the QA team made it.
I love it.
We made a costume for the Olympics. Well. Sonic's in the Olympics.
That looks excellent, though, to be fair. Yeah. But yeah, it was. In terms of them hyping it up, saying, here comes a big Sonic 30th anniversary announcement, and was and they're like, we're remastering, remaking an old Wii game that no one bought, good as it is. And then right at the end, their big bombshell announcement was, we're making a Sonic game. It's like, it's a Sonic presentation. I would have fucking expected
shit,
that.
Mate.
It's like if you're making a DuckTales game, then I'd be surprised. But we're expecting a Sonic game. So what about it? So yeah, it's
I thought we'd see more of
the
sequel to the film as well. I thought we'd see more about the film sequel, personally, because that was a bit of a smash hit in the end, in a weird way, wasn't it? In a roundabout way, it did quite well for itself. An actual film.
Although clearly the lockdown affected merchandise sales if they're bundling key rings with the game. They've obviously got a warehouse full of baby Sonic key rings that they were expecting to sell in shops.
And all the shelves at game, haven't they?
All the shops shut down. They're like, shit, can they get rid of these? So they're just bundling them with Sonic colours for no reason.
It's like the most fortunate timing ever for a film. That film, didn't it come out like January 2020? I'm pretty sure it's the highest grossing film of last year. It was the only film that came out in the cinema.
It was looking set to beat, like, I think it was going to be the best selling video game movie ever, and because the first week was great, and you're like, oh, okay, then the second week, it's good, and it's like, no, stop, all cinemas closed.
I love it if it like, for a technicality, got like the best film Oscar and stuff like that. So they have to be in theatres. Right?
Every category, yeah.
It's Sonic. Yeah.
Everything. I got a little anecdote, but I knew someone who was working on that film.
Sonic tells you.
Do you remember before the furore on the Sonic film when it was released and they showed the guy and everyone was like, oh my god, he's hideous Sonic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I've been over to a family friend of mine, Mrs. in Canada, and he was just the week after that came out, and we visited him, and he worked on that film, and they were annoyed that a focus group had actually told them to change, the design of Sonic, and he showed me on his phone what Sonic had actually meant to look like, and it was basically what it looks like now. And this is well before all the statements that came out about rechanging the character. So they already wanted it to kind of look like that, in the first place. But then they'd gone, nope, he's got to have teeth, and he's got to have muscly legs and all that kind of stuff. So, but I was very happy for him anyway. That eventually did pretty well, because obviously we forget that behind every flop potentially of a film or a game, there's humans, developing it. So I was happy in the end they did pretty well for him in personal. Are you actually a big fan of Sonic, Andy? Because I've not played it personally. I played it an awful lot when I was younger, but I've not really been to any of the modern Sonic games. That's
same pretty much. I used to love Sonic when I was younger. Yeah, I used to love Sonic when I was younger, but it just got a bit shy, didn't it? Like, let's be fair. Sonic became a bit shy, and then it became this scattergun approach to see which direction does the series need to go in, and who really is going to steward it. I'm gonna attract the ire of the Sonic fan base if I continue
Is there a
too
way?
Much, but
a way to make a genuine big but a brilliant 3D Sonic game. Like, I'm talking like brilliant, like a 10 out of 10 level, we're talking like a classic, because they've not managed that yet, in my personal opinion. I'm not sure I haven't been particularly
it's like speed of momentum's hard to translate, I guess, from
yes, it's the momentum. It's the momentum that's definitely the thing, because since Sonic Adventure, so basically since it went 3D, they seem to have decided that you can go from 0 to 100 like that, and it's like, no, what made the Mega Drive game so great was that once you hit top speed, you felt like you'd earned it, and it didn't just kind of go from pick up speed instantly. The speed has to be built up so that if you're, especially in a lot of the 3D games have really kind of finicky platforming bits, and when your character moves too fast from a start, it's really difficult to so it leads to really frustrating jumping sections where it doesn't start slow, it just goes fast straight away. If they can bring out a 3D game where he starts slow and builds up speed, that's the start start of a good Sonic game.
I've always thought a Sonic game would be the perfect blend between the 2D and then almost like 3D set pieces, like going on. So you're building up the momentum in 2D and you get to a certain point if you can, and then it kind of, I don't know how he does it. I'm not game designer.
That's pretty much what they do, right?
Nonsense. Yeah, they do. But I guess I mean better set pieces. like better ones. I'm talking less ones, but really, really nailing that kind of transition between the things. But either way, I hope obviously Colours finds
Sonic Mania was the best Sonic game in years.
That was fantastic.
In ages. I think there's no. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no 2's not announced yet, is it? Or has been any rumours of that? Because I thought they would have. I thought that's what I was expecting from this Sonic Mania.
That is a Sonic game by a team who fundamentally understand Sonic.
Yeah,
right? Was it?
I get the feeling.
Is that right?
Yeah, Christian Whitehead, who did Sonic Mania, he'd previously done kind of ports of Sonic CD. I get the feeling they've got him involved for this compilation thing that's coming out, and they're basically going to do full widescreen. I think I saw a Sonic community manager last night on Twitter confirming that Sonic CD at least is going to be widescreen. So it sounds like they're going to go back and actually kind of make them look better than they used to. So I'm not dismissing it yet as like just 5 ROMs that have been dumped on a disc. It sounds like they're actually going back and doing something to them. We just need to wait and see what that is. But I think the reason I've just enjoyed Sonic all this time is that I'm got a famously high tolerance for shite. And so I put up with stuff like
brutal
Sonic and the Black Knight on the Wii, where he had a talking sword. Just absolute shit. Like, I was like, I'll take it. It's fine. It's more Sonic. But
it's a talking sword, man. What more can you ask for?
Sold.
That brings us to the end, guys, of this episode of VGC Off The Record. Let us know your favourite shite Sonic game down in the comments below. Let us know, of course, what you make of the potential Switch Pro rumours and when are you expecting to see that. Could be within a couple of weeks. And obviously your thoughts down in the comments below on Horizon Forbidden West and the Far Cry 6 reveals as well. For now, though, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're watching over on our YouTube channel, or give the podcast a rating and follow the podcast over on your major podcast providers. For now, though, have a wonderful weekend. My name is Steven. This has been Chris and Andy, and we'll catch you next week for another episode of VGC Off The Record.